What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome to Not Your Status Quo. Tonight, we're talking The Acolyte, Episode 4, Day, and House of the Dragon, A Boy for a Boy. Or A Son for a Son. Wow, I messed that up.
I was about to say, you sure about that?
Are you sure about that? But before we get into fake titles, Dave, Doug, how's it going, gentlemen?
Well, Keith, I gotta tell you, I'm fan-freaking-tastic. I can't wait to talk about the Acolyte show this week. It was just so incredibly average. It was like an extra medium this week is what it was. It was. I guess we'll get into it in a minute. Doug, how are you doing?
Well, Dave, let me tell you, doing all right.
You're doing all right, huh?
Yeah, I figure if these media companies can keep phoning it in, I can too, right? Isn't that allowed?
Nope, not on this channel.
Sir. Oh. Now we'll ask you again. How are you doing, Doug?
I'm doing outstanding. Please feed me this time.
You've gotten one morsel.
What was how was it phrased in Force Awakens?
Oh yeah.
One portion that's worth two portions.
Well, how often are you feeding Dave in your closet down there? I mean, we got to be fair.
What? Wait, is he supposed to be fed?
How often do humans have to eat?
If he was dead, though, I'd be dead. So, I think
is that how that works?
I don't think that's how it works.
Well, why'd they keep him alive then in special investigation?
Because the story and look, I'm gonna need you to get all the way off my back about why they kept them alive in special investigation.
So separate scrolls could take their identity.
Oh,
yeah, that's it. Yeah, and it's sort of like a file, keeping them in a file cabinet. Yeah,
good reason. I like it.
Mental acrobatics.
Jiu-jitsu tonight, gentlemen.
But Keith, sir, how are you doing?
Gentlemen, I am tremendous. I forgot my word.
No.
You guys threw me off. I am tremendous, though. Another wonderful day of work. Got to spend some time with the kids indoors since it's too hot to go outside here in Michigan. And for those of you asking why I'm wearing a hoodie, it's freezing in my basement, so I have to wear a hoodie when I'm down here. But it is like 90-some degrees outside. So, it's been playing Uno, playing some board games, doing the fun things, and, watching shows that we were very hopeful for.
By the way, speaking of work, thank you for the extra work. I really appreciate that.
Don't blame me. That was your boss reaching out to me saying, what do we do? And I'm like, I'm not support. This question ain't for me. But here you go.
I turned into support. So
well, it was funny. She asked me, and then she said, oh, me and Doug were working on it. And I'm like, why'd you drag poor Doug into this?
I said, oh, I'm going to have to give a piece of my mind.
I was like, why'd you drag Doug in it? Then I remembered you're the only one in your department that knows how to do anything in the actual software. So I was like, of course they got Doug.
Good times.
Good times.
All right. Let's attack this topic right from the start. I'm waiting for this.
Let's talk The Acolyte Day. This was a very oddly paced show.
Yeah.
In the sense that we got like 30 minutes of really sort of slow, sort of deliberate pacing where I was like, okay, they're building up to something, they're building up to something, they're building up to something. And then we got that thing they built up to, and it abruptly ended.
For like 5 minutes.
I gotta
say, the thing that they built up to without spoiling it and jumping to the end like we always do, so I'll just leave it very vague. The thing that they built up to, I have seen that done better in other shows and in other Star Wars media.
You're not wrong.
It's like if they cut out half of each episode that they've done,
Mm-hmm.
then they compressed it, or they delivered it another way, like I suggested with the Green Arrow formula with the
Yeah.
flashbacks. It would be a much
Be
better
fine.
show.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it.
Yeah.
And I thought the acting on this particular episode wasn't that great.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, because the thing is, the actress who plays Osha and May, normally pretty on point. Not
Yeah.
in this one, I didn't think.
I agree.
I think the only person that I thought really did a good job was Quimir.
Yeah, yes, I agree.
And my favorite line of the entire episode is when he goes, "I'm just curious how you're going to do it this time. You failed so much." I was like, "Oh my
I
god,
feel
dude!"
that, man.
I'm like, he's totally the apprentice of the master.
Right.
Because if you noticed, he had a smiley black helmet size bag on his back that could easily win.
Mhm.
Yeah, see, that's one of the characters that that's already on the show that could be the master, right? It could be I forget his name already. The
Quimir?
guy who was talking. But yeah, or it could be Green Lady, which I don't know her name either. The head of the Jedi, it's the one who's giving out all the orders. I was thinking maybe it could be her.
No,
I mean,
I think you're thinking too deep about this, man.
Well, let's talk about that because she is the one who is every chance she gets. She's like, we gotta stop this quickly. We can't let this get to the council because they'll tell the Senate, and she's the one trying to keep it hush hush. And it may just be a red herring, but she has been, to put it in a youthful vernacular, pretty sus.
She's definitely trying to keep it under wraps.
See, I'm looking at it, and this may be, a mistake on my part, but I'm looking at a lot of these episodes very surface level, just because I don't think the writers and the creative team put nearly as much thought as we are when we're coming up with our theories for this series. Theories for the series. I don't think they put nearly as much thought. I think a lot of it is very surface level, like, it is what it looks like. That's why, like, all the people saying, oh, the master's probably Quimir. Yeah, probably. I don't think they put that much thought into it.
I keep hoping, and her name was Vernestra. I looked it up in my notes. But, I keep thinking while I'm watching, I'm like, okay, they're going to give us like they're like
twist.
lulling us into sleep. Man, they're going to give us some sweet twist that when you go back and watch, you're going to see it, but we haven't seen it yet. And then, each episode more we get in, I'm like, I don't think that's going to be the case.
I tell you what, though, if they do, I'm going to make the statement right here, right now. We're live. Not going to edit this out. I will personally go on the next time that we stream, after it's all said and done, and I will give credit where credit is due. If they do manage to somehow pull off a what to twist, and, it turns out that it was way deeper than we thought, and they were leaving little background clues this entire time, and I actually missed them, I'll fully admit it. I was wrong. You were right. Good job. Hell, I will even say, good show.
This is the reason I had a problem with Leslye Headland. This is the second season of Russian Doll level type stuff.
Right.
There's nothing you're not seeing coming, and I don't think they're really being clever with a lot of stuff. I don't think it's like, oh my god,
Right.
Nothing really doing that to me in this series, and I don't think it will. Just by judging, the other shows that I've seen from it.
Like even, one of the scenes I was not overly happy with was when they, when Osha is walking through and she kind of wakes that thing up and she's like, oh, I felt it again. And I'm like, wow, nobody saw this coming. And just the whole way it played out, I was like, man, you guys are just not really. And I think too. I'm like, remember how we were like all of Ahsoka? We were like so
Yeah.
fired up to see what was going on, and then it was kind of a letdown on that last show.
Yeah.
Wasn't terrible, but it was kind of like, okay, great. We gotta wait
The
for
best
season
part
2
was
now.
Sabine.
Yeah, yeah. And definitely Sabine was the best part. And this show, maybe it'll be the opposite. You know, maybe it'll be like leading up seems kind of lackluster and average, and then we're gonna get to the end, and it's going to really knock our socks off. Then they're gonna sell us socks for season 2 or something like that. I really hope it is, because this has been, just above average. It's like I watch it, I want to love it, but I don't. I like it.
I honestly hope that it turns out that we're wrong too. I do want to love this. I do want to enjoy this, and I'm trying. There are little sparkles of like, oh, this was a good idea. Oh, this was nice. And then they drag it on for too long or stuff. I don't know. I don't know what is happening here.
Hey, Palpatine, by the way, we got a Palpatine.
It's because they're not diving deep enough into the dark side of the Force. If it was nothing but the Sith rising to power and crushing the Jedi under their feet the way it's supposed to be.
Well, Palps, good guy Palps, it did look like the Sith we saw at the end of this episode is gonna beat up some Jedi, because he had no problem just pushing May out of his way and then pushing all the Jedi. Like, I think this is going to show us that, it was very deliberate in that first episode saying, there's been peace for thousands of years. These are not battle-trained Jedi, like the
Oh, no.
Jedi were at the end of the Clone Wars. And
No, they're not.
that was the only mistake you made, Palps, is you needed to start the Clone Wars to get, your clones to execute Order 66, but you also gave the Jedi a lot of combat skills, and that probably is why so many Jedi survived Order 66. If you could do it all again, good guy Palps, how would you handle it?
Well, see, that's where you're actually wrong. You see, there are no Jedi. I don't know where you're getting your information, but you're wrong. Fake news. That they don't exist. We eliminated all of the Jedi traitors. They are traitors to my empire, and they were dealt with.
What about Cal Kestis?
What about him?
He was a Jedi.
Who?
What about Luke Skywalker?
Exactly. I've never heard of him.
What about Luke Skywalker?
I'm sorry, Luke Skywalker. It reminded me which famous upper echelon Jedi Academy he went to. Oh, that's right. He trained in a swamp with a frog.
What about Obi-Wan?
Let me just say, you don't want to mess with him, or his dad's going to come after you.
What about Obi-Wan Kenobi?
His dad. What about who?
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Doesn't ring a bell. I don't know of this. Are you sure he was an actual Jedi? He wasn't just a Force fan.
I think he was an
we've
hermit
got
that
laws of you
lived
being-
past the Dune Sea.
Being on his vessel.
Look.
You just-
I think we're all muddying the waters here. I was right. You were wrong. The Jedi were all destroyed, and the Empire was perfect and not flawed in any way.
I thought you went to Naboo with Obi-Wan. No, that didn't happen. Why can't you?
when you're ruling an entire galaxy, sometimes when you need to crush a rebellion, what's going on? Who can say what planet I went to with who?
But good guy Palps, did you ever have a little guy named Basil as like a tracker? Did you ever use one of those little guys?
Yes, obviously. I had many of them, all the time.
Because he was a good part of the show. I kind of liked him. I thought that was kind of cool. You know what I didn't find so cool?
What?
That Kalneka got killed by a little swipe across the chest. They should have
Yeah.
plunged it into his stomach, because then he could have lived.
No. Lightsaber plunges, you can survive. You live from those. It's little slicey dicey, that's what kills you.
That's what I said. They should have.
Plus, he was still in that chair, indicating he didn't get up to defend himself. You know, come on. Is this person really that stealthy? And if there's a Sith running around 100 years before the Phantom Menace, really, and
He
Yoda
allowed himself to die like the Jedi scum he was. He knew that it was his only fate.
And honestly, we know that I almost called him Trogdor, but it's definitely not Master Trogdor. He took the poison because of the guilt, and maybe this is something the same with Kalneka, where he was like, I'm not going to fight.
Go ahead and do it because I feel bad enough as it is.
Exactly.
It would be but this incident would be something that Yoda would remember, being 800 at the time.
We don't know that. We don't know. See,
do you have any idea what Yoda was doing during this time?
How do you know what Yoda remembers? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yoda doesn't remember anything from this period. He was too busy crushing death sticks, snorting them, and driving around with all of the galaxy's finest booty.
Your 5 minutes is up too, good guy Palps. But there's two options we could have. One, there's a lot of Jedi in the High Republic era, so very likely he never heard of this, because if they do keep it under wraps, like Vernestra wants to, he might not have known about it, or he does know about it, and it was always something that they, he agreed to keep it under wraps, or they're gonna say it wasn't a Sith, it was a dark Jedi, or it was a dark side Jedi or something weird. They'll have some certain point of view.
A Skywalker.
Yeah, it was a Skywalker.
Certain point of view, yeah. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of... Oh, God, if they... swear. If they somehow sneak somebody with the last name Skywalker, like, it turns out it's, like, Shmi Skywalker's grandfather or whatever.
And just so you know, now that Kalneka is gone, that makes Sol the sole survivor.
Do you think it's funny that his name is Sol and he's a Korean actor?
Yeah. Most definitely.
Come to think of it.
Again, very surface level. Yeah. Not much thought put into any of this.
And the whole trip on, Kafar, we talked to some townspeople. The Wookiee ran into the woods. They were in communication with them. Did they not know this stuff? The walk through the woods was just not very outside of I sense them, Master Soul. It wasn't very exciting. And when we finally get to that part, this figure shows up behind Osha.
The Power Ranger villain.
Yeah, the Power Ranger villain.
with the venom teeth.
People are saying he's Smiley Ren.
Yeah, sure, as well.
Smilo.
Smiley Smilo Ren. I like that better name, Smilo Ren.
And even
what the I'd say with the most tension in all of these scenes was between the actress who plays our main character, Osha, and Dafne Keen's character, Jackie, or I think that's how it's pronounced.
Yeah, it's Jackie.
Yeah, that was the most tension in this entire episode. The way they're longingly staring at each other. Just make out and get it over with. Come on,
That's not the kind of tension we're looking for. We're looking for a different kind of tension.
Do you feel the Force?
I had a question about, all right, let's say you just found out, this is where the plot didn't make sense to me. You just found out your long-lost twin you thought died is alive, and you just saw them, and the people that you are with want to go find that person, and you're just gonna go back and go be a tech mech dude. I'm gonna go stand on the in the top of Star Destroyer or whatever.
The way I took it, and again, I could be wrong, but the way I took it is she had already moved on with her life, thinking that her sister was dead. Why dredge up, old things? And as far as she was concerned, her sister went around killing a bunch of Jedi, so may as well stay dead.
That's very generous of you, Doug.
And that's kind of how I took it too. I didn't say it was executed well, but I
Right,
think
yeah,
that's how
exactly.
they meant it to be. And you know what else? I mean, talk about not really making that much sense. It was very much final season of Game of Thrones where she was just all of a sudden like, you know what? My sister's alive. I don't want to get revenge anymore. I'm done with this path. I was like,
Right.
that just
When
came
did
out
you
of the
start
blue.
caring?
You're like
Did you
traveling to kill
literally
that
just
last. Hey, we're traveling to kill that last Jedi, but you know what? I think I'm out.
Eh,
I'm good now.
I think I'm just gonna go turn myself in. They won't hurt me. They
That's
won't care. I killed 2 Jedi already. They're not gonna worry. I'm turning myself in. It's cool. I got a cousin over there or a sister over there. It's
I do
It is
think
exactly like the last season of Game of Thrones when they interviewed the creators, and they're like, so like how was it that Daenerys' dragons were able to oh sorry, spoilers for the last season of Game of Thrones. How was it that Daenerys' dragons were able to fly through and destroy the city like that when like the episode prior you were able to shoot them down so easily with the Scorpion? Oh, they forgot they had that. That was the real response from these. They forgot they had it.
oh, good call. Yeah.
That was Osha in this episode. So, why do you suddenly care about your sister and want her to live? Oh, I forgot that I hated her and wanted her dead. Weird.
a little setup would have went a long way to making that a much better and more, impactful scene. Instead, it
Now,
just felt
Keith,
forced.
if we would have set it up, we wouldn't have had time for our trek through the forest and stolen glances.
Here's my. Do you think any of this? Now, this is just really reaching. Do you think any of this has to do with the writer's strike?
Hmm. I don't know because I don't know how the writer's strike would have affected this other than delaying it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm asking. I don't know if they got some scab writers in, or if this was the original plan and these writers were just not that good.
I can't imagine they would have allowed scab writers to come in. Like Disney would have been on fire for something like that. Someone would have found out, it would have been reported. Especially with a Star Wars project, something that has, that much media coverage.
It's hard to tell with what we're watching, though. You know what I mean? It's
Fair.
but you know what I'm saying.
hmm
No,
I think one of the new rules that came out of the writer's strike was that there needs to be one of the writers or a head writer or something like that needs to be on set during filming in order to make any last minute corrections or fixes if something goes wrong.
That's a good idea.
Because one of the things that was happening was after writing would end, if something needed to be changed or a new script needed to be written or adjusted, they would just call these people out of the blue and be like, "Hey, I know that you're not on set, and we're filming in the UK, and it's like 3 a.m. for you. Can you fix this?"
No.
and unfortunately, I
Okay.
do feel like after this last episode, with Osha being able to feel things again, and May kind of, I don't want revenge anymore. They're definitely going to be like the team up twins by the end of this. And
Wonder Twin powers activate.
exactly, and they'll be the one that takes down the Sith Master. None of the Jedi know it even happened, and that's how, Kai
For the
Kai Mundi doesn't know about the Sith, 100 some years later when.
That's sad, though.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right, and that's sad. It's not sad that you're right. It's sad that you're right.
Yeah.
It's sad this is what we're probably getting out of the
Right.
show.
Yes.
We get 8 episodes of a Star Wars show. You just hope it's going to, blow you away and just be awesome and be memorable. And it's more Book of Boba Fett than anything else.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
okay. Hold on.
we
Does that
only
mean that
got
we're going to
two
get...
episodes of Andor in the middle.
Right, I
That
was just
would
about to say that. Good job, Dave. You read my mind. Does that mean we are going to get 2 random episodes of Andor that make no goddamn sense?
Let me rephrase that. We're getting the Book of Boba Fett minus the 2.5 episodes that were the Mandalorian.
Well, now I'm just sad.
Yeah, there's no way this is getting a second season. I mean, I don't even see a storyline that could extend past this season.
I think what makes me upset about this is what I've wanted for a while. You guys know how much I've said we need to get out of the Skywalker Saga. We need to get out of this time frame that takes place, between the old trilogy and the new trilogy and everything. We got to find some new ground to finally tread over, and that would have been the High Republic era. And there's some good potential stories there. There's a lot of potential with that, and instead we're getting this lackluster. What we were promised was a murder mystery, and they kind of wrapped that up in the first episode.
What is the real mystery?
Right, and then the rest of
Sith
the
Lord is.
Jedi Council stuff. Like, I'm imagining, this very elegant and more empowered Jedi Council, like right at the height of the old Republic and everything. And I'm just imagining, we got a couple of gold robes, and I don't know, they're pretty much the same. Doesn't really seem much difference, other than the fact that we're getting what's her name, the green one,
Venestra.
Yeah, Vanessa complaining about the politics of it all.
Yeah.
And the guy in the Jedi Council, who was there, and he was in the, he was on the Jedi Council in the prequel trilogy. Let me get his name. The guy with the weird head.
His name is Kai Adine Mundi.
Yeah, I mean, how old is that guy?
Old.
And like I said, if he's there, wouldn't you think? I would think that Yoda would be there.
Well, he was definitely a Jedi at that time, but he wasn't where. Maybe he wasn't in the Jedi Temple because we haven't seen him on Coruscant yet. He could have been out doing Yoda things. Maybe he's in Dagobah.
We've seen that they've got other temples scattered on a whole bunch of other planets. So I think by the time we get to the prequels, I don't know if they have temples anywhere else. Or at least active temples. If they do, they don't talk about any of them or show any of them or anything like that.
They certainly don't talk about them, but we know they do because we saw some in Rebels and the Clone Wars where they go to where the younglings go to get their thing.
You're right. Yeah, I guess during the Clone Wars they were probably still staffed. Yeah, because there's I know at least the one where they go to for the Kyber crystals. They do show that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just I had higher hopes for this series, and it's just not delivering so far. It has a lot of potential that it had to work with, and I don't know.
No, you're right. I mean, when they first announced, hey, we're getting a show at the end of the High Republic, and it's basically about a Sith, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, sign me up. That sounds fantastic. I cannot wait to see it.
It's going to be about a Sith apprentice. Ooh.
Yeah, it's going to be a Sith master apprentice who's looking to get an Acolyte because he wants to destroy his master and take that power. I'm like,
that sounds amazing. This is what we wanted.
This is going to be great. I'm fired up.
And instead, it's like a Mary-Kate and Ashley movie.
How the West was fun.
The Bad Coyote Ugly exactly agrees with everything you just said, Keith.
The premise excited me before the show dropped. Now I'm so bored and watching out of habit just to see what happens. Yeah. You're not wrong, Bad Coyote Funky. I want to like this show. And don't get me wrong, it's not terrible, but it's certainly not great either. I agree. I wanted a story away from the Skywalkers, but this really isn't anything to sink your teeth into. It has Star Wars aesthetics without the feel and look of Star Wars.
What did I say last week?
Yeah. And he seems to really like Mary-Kate and Ashley. So.
I mean, this is friggin' just like you know, an adventure, but with twins.
We're going to say it's a deep mystery, and you guys are going to be fooled at every turn. But we're going to foreshadow everything that's coming so much in your face that you're not going to be surprised.
I'm just surprised that the Sith Lord hasn't like what's his name again? My gosh. Quillen?
Jay Quellen?
Yeah, sure, that dude. I'm surprised he hasn't at some point been like, I'm not the villain.
Oh, Quimir. I really didn't know who you were
Yeah.
talking about. Thanks,
Yeah,
Bad
dude,
Coyote
whatever.
Funky. You understood what Doug was talking about? Because I'm like, what?
I'm just trying to think of his name on that other show he was on.
Oh, yeah, with
I am.
the Good Place. Was
The
it
Good Place.
Jason?
What was his name?
Oh
Jason.
yeah, that's right. I forgot he played Jason.
I
Yeah.
want him to be like,
Jason.
hey, let's go, Jags, Jaguars.
I
Yeah,
am
he
trying
loved
so
the Jag.
hard to remember all of these people's names, but I'm not invested enough. You know, and you guys know the file cabinets in my brain, they're already pretty full. I don't have the real estate for this show right now.
Yeah, and honestly, they are setting it up to look like Quimir so much. He says, oh, he knows all the little Sith sayings, and he knows he's pushing May to be like, oh, you failed so many times. How are you gonna kill this Wookiee, Jedi without a weapon and stuff? And they're making him look so much like he is it that he's probably gonna be a red herring. And
Yeah. Well, in a good Star Wars show, yeah.
Oh, you reading it?
yeah, what do you guys think of the portrayal of the Jedi in this show? I think it's odd. They come off as cops, abrasive and foolish. People have been saying how they don't feel good watching that. I look at it as a lot of them, you're going to, I think, using cops as an example, you get really good cops, you can get some bad cops. And I think that's what
Yeah.
they're trying to portray a little bit. Once again, I don't think they're executing it very well, because while you get like Soul seems like he wants to do the right thing and be good, we know he has something in his past that he's not very proud of, just like the other 3 Jedi that have now been killed. So, I mean,
And Yord is just straight up and down. He's, if anybody on that team could be, but could be the evil master. I would think it would be him, but obviously it wasn't because he was in the crowd that got pushed back. But the way his don't bend, don't break or bend the law. Where Soul is like, all right, I want to get to the bottom of this before I make any decision. Yord is like, shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah.
you would hope that, well, like we said, it's been 1,000 years of peace. These Jedi, they train and they use the Force. They don't necessarily have to.
They're not using it. They're not trained in using it for a battle, and they're certainly not trained to use it against any sort of Sith Lord. Maybe other Force users. It does seem like they've got a habit of going from planet to planet and shutting down, any other non-Jedi affiliated, Force users. At least the ones that are attempting to train children.
It's the thread, by the way. It's not the Force.
Huh?
It's the thread in this show, not the Force.
Sure. Okay. I think just for that, Coven.
Power of Manny.
Don't even. Don't even. Don't get me started on that nonsense.
It makes you want to have a musical episode. I know it does.
But yeah, Bad Coyote Funky. I hadn't really thought of that that comparison, but I guess that's not too far off from either that or any other sort of like JRPG, Knight's Order that you might find in like any of these like role-playing games or anything like that, where they're given this sort of power, but they're very politically motivated.
Well,
Like
you think
we know
about
that
it,
the Jedi are.
they're the only ones who are supposed to train, anyone in the Force. I mean, they've gotten lackadaisical at this point. There hasn't been anything they've needed, so, pretty much
Look, Keith,
everyone
I'm
who
not
has,
gonna, your religious beliefs, I'm not going to knock them. If that's what you believe, that only the Jedi should train children. That's you. Personally, I don't think the Jedi code should be put into every school in the galaxy. That's just not what I believe, even if that's what you're for.
Well, they need the Jedi code because how are they going to know the true law was the original Jedi? So they.
Isn't that CJT? They call that CJT.
I like. The Jedi are supposed to be more like Knights of the Round Table, the Seven Samurai who saved the village, the good cowboys George Lucas watched as a kid, not oppressors snatching kids. Yes.
And I assume that's probably what they started off as.
And I think if we got in the, farther away from this, it seems like the Jedi are complacent and aren't willing to, there's probably, they're not the best Jedi, but, we need Jedi or whatever. And so, the ranks are kind of spoiled that way. But I do hope we see that at least some of the Jedi, do the right thing. We'll call them Captain Americas, where they do the right thing no matter what. And we haven't really seen that yet. But we still got 4 episodes, and we may see, Soul or Thord Horde, one of those guys really step up, or Jecki, and show us, there's time. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, but I'm still hopeful.
I think we're still hopeful, still thinking that eventually this is going to turn around and it's going to be, an amazing Star Wars. Maybe this is going to be like a reverse Ahsoka. It's like really mid in the beginning, and then all of a sudden, the very end is just going to be amazing, the greatest Star Wars we've ever seen. It's going to be like the end of Rogue One. Oh my God!
Can't believe we got that. Awesome, greatest series ever. I don't even mind It was so good. I don't even mind the power of one, the power of two.
Okay, Dave. Between that and the siren scene in the Snyder Cut, which one is worse?
I think the Snyder Cut scene is worse.
Yeah, it probably
because it went on for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. I zoned out for the movie so many times.
Okay, Bad Coyote Funky asks, are there any standout performances in The Acolyte that you guys like? The actress who plays May and Osha has been doing great up until this episode. And I don't know who directed this one, but they definitely did not get a good performance out of her for episode 4.
I agree.
Outside of that, Quimir, I think he's great, but I like the actor. I'm probably a little biased because I loved him in The Good Place, and I think he's, he seems slimy, and he's almost... I'm very happy they didn't make him like another Han Solo, because he's a former smuggler, and now he does like potions and he helps. I'm glad they're not making him a scoundrel with a heart of gold. He just seems like a bad dude, and anything to help himself, no matter what. So I'm hoping he continues down that road. If he does turn out to be the apprentice, I'm fine with that. But outside of that, I can't think of any really standout performances that knock me down or anything.
Yeah, nothing really.
Jordan is doing okay.
Yeah,
I think the best performance is Soul, but I don't think he's a standout. I wouldn't say he's a standout.
I don't know, because every now and again his line delivery can be a little rough and seem like very forced, or like, I don't know if over emotional is the right word, but that's just how it comes off sometimes. Like, every event is like an end of the world critical kind of event. It's like every time he delivers a line, he's not talking normal.
And Soul's been good. I agree with Dave, but the scene he had convincing Osha to come with him on this mission was neither one's best work. I was happy that scene was over.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go. Come on, let's go. All right.
All right, let's go. All right. Good. Okay.
If you don't go, I don't get to go. Probably just gonna kill her. That's all right.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't even want to see her again. So, go kill her out.
So I noticed that later on, Osha goes along with it and is really into wanting to save her sister. What happened? Because in the earlier scenes,
What changed your mind? Was this
Yeah,
amazing
yeah.
speech? You just said, "Go with me. We should go." That was it. Changed your mind. It's like saying if
That
somebody
did it.
decides to whoa, calm down. That always works, right?
Come on, you
So I
guys. We
think
know
that's-
exactly why she changed her mind. She was feeling things again. She felt the good in May. Even though she killed a couple Jedi friends and,
Right. Yeah, and that'll be overlooked by the end of the series, I'm sure. She'll be fine. She'll be perfectly redeemed. And then it's going to turn out that, what was her name? Rolla?
Finestra.
Carrie-Anne Moss.
Oh, Adana? Or, oh my God, what was her name? Hold on a sec.
See, you guys can't remember any of their names either.
It's so hard to remember.
Indara.
Indara, yes.
Indara. It's going to turn out that Indara didn't die. And, that'll be the redemption. And the other guy, well, he killed himself. So, she can't be blamed for that. So there's her redemption arc right there. I hope not, but there it is.
It's certainly a possibility. But you know who, actually, I figured it out. I just pieced it together.
Okay.
I know who the Sith Lord is.
Who?
Yord's Padawan. We haven't seen her since like that first episode. Why wasn't she with him on this mission?
Who was yours?
Is she that tall?
She was it? Oh my God! Hold on. What was her name? It was Taza Loa.
Is she tall enough?
No, she was shorter than him. But remember, they came to get Osha in that first episode.
Uh-huh.
She looked like a
But
dinosaur.
In the woods.
Oh, I'm like, I don't remember who you're talking. Okay.
In the woods, this the master or whatever is taller than Osha.
Who's taller than Osha?
The master, the one at the very end scene, the master with the teeth. The master.
Oh yeah. What are we calling him? Smilo Ren?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Smilo Ren. is taller than Osha. So,
Oh my God. Okay. After this, we got to go on the Star Wars wiki and change. We need to update that.
Yeah.
yes, I agree. Bad Coyote Funky. Yord's Padawan not being with him is an example of this being written by people who don't understand Star Wars. This is a Knight's Padawan, not with him, but Geki. Is it what's her name again? Jeki.
Jackie. Yeah.
Jackie, yeah. Is it Geki or Jackie?
No, it's Jackie.
Okay.
But that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, you do. I mean, they have their own mission, but he's the one to send them on the mission, right?
Right, but I mean, if you're training a Padawan, they go on those missions with you usually.
I mean, Ahsoka got sent on her own missions with Anakin. So
That is true.
I
There
can
were
see-
times that Ahsoka wasn't with Anakin. We don't know how far along
Mm.
his Padawan is. But still, it seemed like this is a pretty important thing going on right now. And, it's not too big of a deal to me, but I still seems out of place just a bit.
Yeah.
If they explain it at a later day, like she was, back, it was her turn to do, midnight chow or something.
sweep the kitchen,
Yeah. We all had to do vampire duty in the military. So
Yeah. Oh.
let's see. But Ahsoka was far along and powerful. Same with Anakin. Obi-Wan trusted him, and he was far along. Yeah. We just don't know enough about Yord's Padawan at this time. She could be
That's
at that
true.
point. She could be close to taking,
The trials.
the trials and becoming a knight. But
Mhm.
I agree. I'm once again trying to make excuses for the writing of this show and what could have been happening when she should have been there. Unless everyone's going to die in the next episode except for like Soul, and they wanted her for future episodes.
You
You know
know,
what I was thinking about the other Jedi that were there that weren't the main characters? I was thinking they should be all wearing red shirts. Because they ain't gonna make it.
I think back to the first episode when I was watching this, and what a younger, more fresh-eyed Doug sitting there thinking, you know what it probably is? I guarantee she's got a split personality or something like that. And May and Osha are actually the same person, and May is just an iteration of Osha. And then I started watching more of the show, and I'm like, oh, no, sorry, never mind. That's way too smart for this.
And she'd have to be really fast to get through.
Yeah, it was like I want to say at the end of the first episode, or maybe it was some point in the second one when they showed that May was on like a totally different planet or whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, never mind.
Yeah, and people have, it's not like Fight Club where they were only ever talking to one person,
Mm-hmm,
or
yeah.
So yeah, it's not that. It's going to be.
I did think that's what it was at first, and
You ruined Fight Club for everyone.
Oh, sorry. Spoilers for Fight Club.
Oh, yeah, spoilers for.
It's only been out like 30 years. If you haven't seen it by now,
late 90s, early 2000s.
I'm sure you're planning to see it this weekend, and I apologize for ruining your weekend plans.
He says, Bad Coyote Funky says, are there any scenes that stand out for you so far?
Yeah, a lot of these wide open shots that they've been doing really stand out to me, and I know that's a bit of a cop out, but because usually in these shots that they're showing there aren't really any actors, but any time where they're out of the volume and they're doing something that's on set, I love it. I think it's great. Like the scene in this episode where May and her buddy there, I guess, because it's not for sure that he's the master. But anyway, that was shot on site. That was an actual open field area. I thought that looked great. I loved it. The one scene that they showed us in the episode when they were kids, the flashback episode, where they're they've got May sitting out in the middle of nowhere, playing with butterflies, or Osha sitting out there playing with butterflies before May comes over and kills it or whatever. Like, I thought that was a really beautifully shot scene. I thought it was done really well. But that's about it. All that's really jumped out at me. It's the only thing I think that's making it not below average.
I really think they wanted to blow you away with that opening scene where May killed Idara. Is that what you said?
Indara, yeah.
Indara.
It was fine.
Yeah, they blow you away with that scene, but they missed. And
it was okay choreography.
I was going to say, I enjoyed the choreography. So far, I think they've done a good job of showing the Jedi as being a little more powerful than we've seen them in other places. Like flying up the stairs like Indara did in that scene. The first scene I thought was enjoyable.
Okay, and that was cool.
The fight scene between Sol and May, where he pretty much didn't even pull out his lightsaber till halfway through the battle. They were showing that they are pretty skilled and strong with the Force, and made it more like they're a little more superhuman than we got like in some of the previous Star Wars movies. So I've enjoyed that. I thought those scenes were good. God, was there anything else that really stood out? And I agree with Doug. Seeing the Fellowship of the Ring walking like in this episode, seeing it's obviously not in the volume. The choreography has been good in a lot of scenes. I'm definitely not against that. It's just the writing and the plot has been average at best, and that's unfortunate.
And really, if it doesn't pop out, that's what he's basically asking you. Is there nothing that stands out? If you have to think about it, it doesn't really stand out.
What about for you, Dave?
Well, that was mine. That was the thing scene of the show was the only thing that really stood out. I still think it fell a little short, but it's the one that stands out the most for me.
And Bad Coyote Funky says, my favorite scene that I loved was when the Jedi revealed themselves to the witches, asked these possibly traumatized Force-sensitive children to come out, and a Jedi Master gives one of them his lightsaber. I'm sorry, what?
So now, if we recontextualize this as police, like Bad Coyote Funky did before, it'd be like an officer like, hey, little kiddo, why don't you come out? You want to see my gun?
You want to be a cop? You get to carry one of these bad boys. What do you think of that?
Look, Mommy, the safety's off. Whoa, whoops. Forgot about that.
Well, here's an idea. if now I don't know whose time this is in, what Darth. I guess it would be none of them. But if the Sith Lord that's there was actually showing that witch how to make a life,
Mm-hmm.
that could be to me like, all right, a practice run on Anakin. You know,
Yeah,
would
I
they
suppose.
be smart enough to put that in?
Well, here's some, for those of you who didn't follow all of the craziness on Twitter, the two sides battling it out. Kai-Adi-Mundi in Legends, he was born well after the events of this show, but that was a Legends date. So they're re-canonizing how long this character has lived. So he was around here. I'm hoping it's for a reason that he's there, since we know he's in the Council and the Phantom Menace, and then maybe there's some connection. But Plagueis should have been a small child at this point. But if they're rewriting what age Kai Mundi is, maybe they can do the same with Plagueis. And maybe they're going to switch it up, and Plagueis is going to be a little more active at this point in history of Star Wars. Because the only canon Plagueis things we know is what was said in Revenge of the Sith. His book is no longer canon, so they can wipe some of those things out and kind of rewrite it here. And I don't know if that's where they're going, but I kind of hope they do, because it would be interesting to bring Plagueis into this, and then maybe we can go more seasons if it justifies having more seasons. I don't think the ratings were pretty good to start, less than Ahsoka, but still pretty good. I haven't seen much after that. Oh, yeah, the Kai-Adi-Mundi discourse is wild. Yeah, it was crazy that it was in the show, but it was. I mean, I almost think that the
Do you mind if I
writers are
make a comparison?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're all familiar with the movie series Star Wars with worse lightsabers, right? I think in some countries they call it Harry Potter.
Yes.
It's about a young orphan boy. His parents are dead, and he's got magical mystical powers. He wants to use
Oh,
them.
Batman.
But anyway, do you guys remember the oh my gosh, what were the spin-off movie set earlier? The Fantastic Beasts.
Yep.
Fantastic Beasts movies. They had a similar discourse that ended up happening because during when those movies were supposed to have taken place, a lot of the teachers that they showed at the school should have been kids still. But they decided, well, everybody knows these characters, everybody loves these characters, so we're gonna show them, and they're gonna be there, and they're gonna be adults, and it's like that doesn't make sense for the timeline. And again, not as big of a deal as like the ever expanding world of Star Wars, but sometimes these writers and creatives, it's just like they don't care about what's already been established because they want a recognizable face.
Yeah.
That's more important.
And you know what?
The thing that makes these stories and the Marvel universe and like any continuous story really is to not retcon so much. Know that there's certain rules in place and certain times that things happen, and right around that, don't change it. That's what I feel. I don't know if I don't know if you guys feel that way, but if it's been established, leave it alone.
If you're going to break it, it better be for a really good reason.
Yes, there better be a good reason. There better be like something that adds purpose to it. Like for instance, what they've been doing in The Boys so far, the way that they're breaking what's been established in the comics, I think it's for the best. A lot of the changes that they're making are far better.
Bad Calorie Funky makes a point here too, which he's so far, Kai-Adi-Mundi doesn't know it's a Sith or a Darksider yet. All he knows is that someone is training me. So far, no canon break. True, and I don't know. They're almost painting themselves in a corner by having him there. They better have a good, explanation for this at the end of this series for why they don't know this is a Sith, than just, oh, he was in the wrong room when they discussed, it was a Sith. Now, it looks like they're already setting up, hey, we're got to keep this down. We can't let this get out because will look bad. But I don't know if that's the best way to handle it. Yoda and Kayadi didn't know about it because we kept it just in this inner circle that who it was. And I think that's the way they're going to go. And I'm just like, just don't bring them in. You know, don't have them in the show if you got to write yourself around it.
Yep. But don't bring them in just for a wow effect. You know, make it make sense to the story.
You really want a wow effect? Bring in Plagueis.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Just having like the one guy that was on, the council and then eventually died. It's like, that's okay, fine. It's a fun Easter egg, I guess, but if it ends up ruining things in the long run, it doesn't add anything, then who is it for?
Yeah. Yeah, and Bad Coyote Funky said, I saw this too. One of the writers said on Twitter that Yoda wasn't available, so they had, Coyote Monday. And I'm
What do you mean he wasn't available?
Maybe there's going to be a story about what he was doing. I'm trying to raise my eyebrows, but I don't have eyebrows, so it doesn't have the same effect. I can't. But once again, they didn't have to have, a Jedi from the Phantom Menace show up to make it impactful. And
yeah,
it's one of those things. Like when it seems like when Favreau and Filoni do these things, it's because they love it and it makes sense and it's a cool, little fan service. This fan service just doesn't make too much sense overall. It's like they're hurting the overall story by doing it instead of it being something cool that we can all look at and say, hey, that was kind of great. It's more like, okay, now we're going to be arguing for 3 days on Twitter about all of this and what's going to go on.
That's what they want. They want.
Yeah, they do.
I have seen people think that they are purposely trying to rouse people up for whatever reason. And
I wouldn't be surprised.
No. I mean, I do it all the time to people. I always try to get people's.
We found out that Sony was doing that with Madam Web. They were purposely trying to rile people up.
Yeah, and that works on social media. That works on YouTube. That'll get you a lot of clicks, but that will not get you respect at the box office.
No. And you know what?
Now,
we've said the same thing, Bad Coyote Funky. A Star Wars fan, it's a tough watch because we want to love the show.
Right?
And they're not making it easy.
I don't go in, immediately wanting to hate any of these things. I remember the last time I did anything kind of like that was I showed disinterest in Andor when I first heard it was going to be a thing, because at the time when they first announced it, I'm like, what's the point of that? That's dumb. We already know how his story goes. He's an unimportant background character to the, to Rogue One even, and it didn't make sense to me at the time. Then when I saw the previews, I was like, oh, okay, that might actually be good. Then when we saw the show, I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. This is some of the best Star Wars I've seen in a long time. So I don't try to, whenever, they announce a new Star Wars show, I'm like, I don't try to go in thinking this is going to be the worst thing I've ever seen. I might not be super excited. Like I wasn't super thrilled when they announced the X-Wing crew show that was supposed to... Rogue Squadron, yeah.
Or Rangers of the Republic or Rogue Squadron?
I think Rogue Squadron. When that was announced, I wasn't like super thrilled about it, but set in Star Wars universe, it might turn out to be good. This one I was legitimately excited about, when they first announced that it was going to be in the High Republic era, and I'm like, oh, finally we're going to get something new, but dropping the ball, man.
First thing I do when I hear about a new Star Wars show, or any new show really, is who is the showrunner, the producer, or the writer, and what is their past shown to me, and if I'm gonna like it or not. So that's why my expectations were low heading into the show, and it's been about what I would expect so far. Like with Andor, like you're saying, I expected nothing. I didn't know anything about Tony Gilroy, and I was thinking like you, this story can't be that important. It's just something to do, and it turns out to be a 9.875652.
I had a 6.53, but we're close. Yeah, it's anything, written correctly, anything can really be good. And, we saw The Mandalorian No one knew what that was going to be, and it turned out to be, at least the first 2 seasons, great. Third kind of floundered a little bit. I hope the movie's good. We got the Book of Boba Fett, which I was like convinced it was going to be just fantastic. Him running a crime syndicate and all this stuff, and it turned out to be, once again, outside of the Mandalorian episodes, to be pretty subpar. Then we get this, which is such a great premise, and it's doing the same thing, and I'm like,
right?
Obi-Wan was for the most part disappointing. Should have been so much better. And
there's another one that had a lot of potential in it. There were glimmers of things that were okay here and there, and then when they decide to shove Baby Leia in a trench coat, it's like, okay,
it's some slapstick
all right, guys,
comedy
come on.
written by someone who just loves slapstick comedy. I guess just didn't fit. But I've seen so many other channels. I don't want to bring this up in that way, but so many other say that like this is the death of Star. We are watching the death of Star Wars, and I'm thinking,
it was that bad.
Don't you people watch The Bad Batch? Didn't you? That wasn't a bad show. What are you talking about? This is one mediocre show. Just because it's the latest one doesn't mean it's canceling Star Wars.
Exactly.
Yeah, we still got another Andor on its way, so everybody just relax.
Star Wars Theory, you know how much I love him because everything he says, is wonderful. He was going on some rant saying that, I guess I'm gonna have to change the name of my channel. Guess I shouldn't be Star Wars Theory anymore. Star Wars is done for. It's like, really, dude.
Bad Batch just it. And I bet he was loving that show.
It's funny. Bad Catty Funky. I've been screaming for an Old Republic setting. Leslye Headland said she wants to create something in that time period, but based on this show, keep her as far away from possible.
Yeah.
Don't disagree. I still want a Knights of the Old Republic or an Old Republic or anything set in that period because it could do the same thing that this show should have done. Be far enough away from the Skywalker Saga that fresh ideas and new things that we're not expecting and new characters. I'd be okay if they had Revan and Malak in it, even though they were part of the the Knights of the Old Republic game. They could still do a lot of good with those characters or do something else. It would be fantastic.
Shit, you know what? You may not make a second season of The Acolyte, but hell, give us another show set in the High Republic. Give us a different showrunner. Fix the tone, for starters. Hell, I'll even take a lot of the same actors and actresses because not everybody is terrible. And I think with the right direction and a better written story, I think they could really make a good show. These actors, I really can't blame them too much for, again, we've seen with the actress who plays Osha and May. In some of the episodes, she's doing a really good job. But in this most recent episode, not a great job. I chalked it up to the director.
Yep. And for me, I would be more excited. Like I was more excited for The Acolyte than I am continuing, episode 10 and beyond with that stuff. Because this is all new setting. What's going on there outside of, the Mando verse with Thrawn and everything else. I'm excited for that. Episode 10 and beyond, I hope it's good, but I would love to see all this stuff back from the Old Republic, even before Yoda or anyone is even there. You don't have to have characters from, the Skywalker Saga to make it enjoyable or Star Wars. They just have to write it good and understand, and we could get something that would revitalize the fandom, even though I think some of them are so hopelessly broke at this point, it's not going to change.
How cool would it be to actually see them go so far back that some of the tech isn't even recognizable? When you've got, the Jedi still wearing battery packs to power their lightsabers.
That would be cool.
I think that'd be neat, because, like, for instance, in this episode, when they're showing, that one room, they've got the same, like, sort of clear screens with the blue lines and everything we've seen in a couple of other scenes. I think we saw it in Return of the Jedi. It's like, you're telling me that they've used essentially the same technology. The ships are, like, the only thing that seems to be updating, but everything else, they've used pretty much the same technology for over 100 years.
And just so you know, I don't think it's a hot take at all because we all like Yord too. Him and Master Soul are the closest to being the real Jedi in the show. I don't disagree with that at all. I also think Jecki, they've had her, kind of questioning Soul's, looking at the hologram of his old, Padawan and stuff. She seems like she's very, we got to follow the Jedi code and be very orderly. And she seems like she could be a good Jedi too. But like if Finestra turns out to be the Master, who has been a Jedi for a very long, she's been in the comics and the books. So it would, really, you know what? The Jedi are going to downfall at some point. We know that they get tricked by a Sith Lord among them, 100 years from now. So I suppose it could happen again. But once again, we don't need to have another story about a Sith Lord hiding amongst them.
No.
It'd be better to handle it a different way.
I actually wouldn't mind if they expanded on this whole, witch coven thing. Like, I think that's a cool idea that they could expand upon. The fact that there are other Force users, or as Dave reminded us, thread pullers, I suppose, out there in the galaxy that are kind of doing their own thing. And I kind of like this idea that when it comes to that, other people using the Force, the Jedi kind of come off as the bad guys because they're using their sort of religious idealism that only they should be allowed to train. And, everybody else is just kind of playing with the Force, where the Jedi are like the true Force users, keeping things in balance. I like that. I think that'd be a neat sort of idea to explore. And we don't need this facade of like a fake murder mystery. Like, what if we did it Star Trek style, where we had like a Jedi Knight and their Padawan going from like world to world, exploring different, things that are, we just got word that there's a witch sighting on such and such planet. Why don't you and your Padawan go check it out?
Yeah, and they would be more like the peacekeepers of the galaxy, going, "Hey, we heard there's some stuff going on this planet. We've heard, dark magics, and they could go investigate. There could definitely be a witch coven. The witches weren't just on Dathomir, and it, we knew when they were going to Perdia, or what was the other universe called, or the other galaxy called, and
I don't remember they gave the galaxy a name. I just remember the name of the planet was Perdia.
That's right. We were thinking, how are they going to see the Force and use it? And, not everyone sees it the same way. So seeing witch covens and everything else handling would be great.
Yeah. And then, they get another call and it's like, hey, we really need you to check this out. We have these rumors going around. There's this like green elf-like character. He's really strong with the Force, but he's only using it to pick up chicks. He talks backwards. We don't know why. If you could go see what's going on with that.
That would be fantastic. Well, should we rate this episode, guys?
We should, because we still need time to talk about your other show.
That's right. We need a little time to talk House of the Dragon.
We've got time. Have the other parties been alerted to be ready?
I just sent the email, and let's see. She will be here soon.
Okay.
So we still got a couple minutes.
All right.
So
Dave, you want to start?
Yeah, and that's the thing I was saying about everybody saying this is the end of Star Wars. Just relax, everybody. It's not. There's been other shows that have been good. This one just happens to be the one you're watching now that it's not up to par. Like we said, this episode must be. I haven't seen who the director was or what else they've done, but it just they missed with this episode. So I won't say that they're beginning or a new director because I don't know that, but I just know that they didn't hit this episode because all of the acting was pretty bad. They didn't get it out of I forget her name. I won't even try her real Wandala or something like that.
No, it's Amandla.
Amandla. Yeah, she just did not knock it out of the park this week. It was like both sisters were not separate anymore. They were the same character. That's how she acted for both of them. And
yeah,
I don't know. So for that reason, those reasons, and every reason we discussed, I'm going to give this episode a 3. Doug scale. not 3.758624.
Not 8675309.
No, no. That would be
Jenny,
starting
I've
way
got
too.
your number.
So who's next?
See, this was an episode that disappointed for the majority of it. Now, that final 5 minutes, I was like, all right, here we go. And then, of course, the somewhat abrupt ending, to say the least. I was like, that's an odd place to stop, but okay, I can't wait till next week. We should get some action next week. But, I mean, overall, Dave hit all the high points. The acting wasn't good. The dialogue wasn't great. There was some good cinematography, but just more things that I found to be less than average than more than average. It was just watching it. I'm almost glad it was only a 33-minute episode because it dragged on. We found these people, and the Wookiees out in the woods, and okay, let's track through the forest, and there's some creatures here, and all the Force sort of May feeling things again, and all of a sudden not wanting vengeance out of the blue with May, just really took me out of this episode. Now, the last 5 minutes brought me back, but not enough to really give it, an average score. I was, it's like a 4.5729. To kind of put it, it's not too far off average, but it's definitely below average.
I honestly have to agree with both of you. It's, I struggled to find this to be even an average episode. And I won't even say that I was pulled back in necessarily by even the last 5 minutes. So the scene where we finally get introduced to Smilo Ren, you can tell that we were back on a set or, back in the volume or something. It felt very claustrophobic. We have seen a lot of these, introduction to the bad guy being bad done so many times in so many other shows in better ways. Even in some of the shows that kind of dropped the ball towards the middle or towards the end. The scene that I keep coming back to, and because he's just such a phenomenal actor and does such a great job, was Baylan Skoll. In that first episode of Ahsoka, when we're introduced to his hallway scene, I think the perfect mixture of not seeing him right away, just seeing the damage that he's doing as he's, pushing them back using the Force. And then we finally see him, and then the music kicks in. And it was nice and extended. They gave the scene time to breathe, and it was set back far, and it didn't feel claustrophobic. But where this one, it had, again, like a lot of this show, it had potential. It had potential that they dropped the ball with. We see this sort of ominous presence kind of floating down, which, weird that they decided that Mary Poppins was, the sort of villain aspect they wanted to go with, but okay.
Mary Poppins, y'all.
And then, when they like kind of zoom in on the helmet, and it's like, oh, okay, Power Rangers. Again, not the aesthetic I would have gone with, but sure, why not? And I think the only cool thing about that scene was the two-fingered Force thing, where he was like just so dismissive, just like, get out of my way, you're beneath me, whatever. That was like really the only cool part, because then even the ignition of the lightsaber, it felt like he was stuck in like a recording booth or something, like he couldn't move around. It's like, and then everyone else is like, bzz. And then the episode is over, and I'm just like, that was it? That's...
Wait,
So,
there's going to be an extra credit scene, right?
right? That's what I'm like, and I'm waiting, I'm like, oh, huh. Well, that was a choice. Oh, yeah. Not great, not my favorite. I think, again, that didn't even really pull me in. The only thing that is not making this a 3.5, I'm going to give it a 4. The only thing that's not making this a 3.5 is just the back and forth between Osha and Jackie was just, it was hilarious to me every time, because it's like, I know what they're doing. I get it. I can see that. It's like, I'm waiting for the and head The time of my life. I'm just like, I'm waiting for a musical cue to kick in. Sparks in the background, whatever. Just get it over with. I don't care. I was laughing every time because I'm like, come on, show. You're not as clever as you think you are. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 4. Eh. You had potential and you ruined it.
4.5 million.
Squandered.
So yeah,
That's the word. They squandered their potential. That's the word I've been trying to think of.
Hey, Sierra was
that's
just
one.
asking if you sent the link, Dave.
I did. I
Okay,
sent it
I
to
said-
her G.
Hey, there we go.
Well, we can wrap up the Acolyte and then you can take that off of there. You know what I mean?
As far as I'm concerned, yeah, the Acolyte's taken off.
All right.
Yeah.
Because it's time to talk House of the Dragon with our special guest, Sierra Kinches. Who you're allowed to turn your camera on, Sierra. You're probably the best looking of any of us. So honestly, we should have
Go
our
ahead and turn
cameras
your
off.
camera
Right?
I'm gonna turn mine off in a second. I gotta get up and do something, but come on.
Dave, this is a family program.
This
That's
ain't
why
the
I'm turning the
boys.
camera off.
Well, she is connecting to audio, so we'll give her a second. But this is
All right.
not a boy for a boy, but a son for a son. Which which makes sense with how last season ended.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we saw kind of, I won't say a continuation per se, but with at the wall with the Starks, trying to recruit him before he found out that his brother was basically killed, and coming back. It was nice seeing the Starks. Hearing about why the wall was important again, even though we know what happens. It was good to see, and I thought that scene played off well. In offering 2,000 troops of, me's, I guess, old dudes. Well,
Yes, Sierra, we can see what you're doing.
I know you can see what I'm doing.
And welcome. Thank you for joining us, Sierra. Always a pleasure to have you on.
So, House of the Dragon.
Yeah, House of the Dragon.
Who watched it? Who didn't watch it?
I watched it.
I watched it.
Okay. Dad didn't. I know he didn't.
Yeah, he's pretty lame.
Yeah, I know. I'm attacking him right now.
I gotta step away for a second, Sierra, so attack someone else. I'll be right back.
Okay. So what are our thoughts? What did we cover just now?
We
basically
just talked
just
about the
got
Starks, yeah. Being at
the
wall.
Starks.
Yep.
I mean, I don't have too much to say about the Starks. I wasn't too excited. I wasn't not excited, but I wasn't too excited. I didn't care too much when they popped in personally. But it was interesting seeing them talking about the White Walkers before, Game of Thrones. That was interesting. That was cool. And hearing about the original story was pretty cool too. But it wasn't like a highlight, but yeah.
I think it was one of those, like, they showed us the location. It's like, oh, hey, I remember that place. Oh, that's nice. We get to go back, kind of see what's going on. What's happening with our old pals, the King of the North.
Yeah.
And you could tell there's a little tension still between the Northerners and, the Dragonborn, as we'll call them. Yes, we pledged. We'll send you some, 2,000 of some guys that
old dudes.
seasoned veterans.
Right.
So,
yeah. Like old veterans, you can have our scrap, is what you
Right,
can.
Exactly.
we need
That's
to.
it's the most North move they could have pulled too.
So, are we doing a spoiler free or?
No, this is
no.
spoiler filled. We can talk
Spoiling it
whatever
up.
we want.
All
It's
right,
so
can we talk
spoiled,
about the
it's
end?
disgusting.
Can we
Sierra,
talk
it
about the
wouldn't
end?
be not your status quo if we didn't jump right to the end.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think that traumatized me a little bit. Apparently,
I guess it
I
really
had
was a
heard-
boy for a boy.
a son for a son. But I had heard in the books, right, that that episode was supposed to be worse than a red wedding. Like apparently it was just more graphic. Like the end of it was more graphic than the red wedding. But I think the reason they would say that is because there's a child involved, which is completely messed up. It was traumatizing to me that they just went in. They just went in on him.
See, but that's what this show does so well, and why I liked Game of Thrones when I read the books and even watched the series and watching House of Dragon. You know, I'm thinking, okay, they're going to run into Aemon, and there's going to be a big battle. Aemon's probably going to best them, and then it's going to fire them up. And then, oh my God, when they went after the twin boy, I was just like, please, oh, don't do this. Don't. Stop.
Don't do
I'm going to pause it. You guys don't do this. I'm going to unpause it. Do not make me upset. Oh, they did.
Right. And Helena is just, it was sad for her.
Yeah, you're right about that. That's something the show does not shy away from. It doesn't stick to a lot of the tropes that you would normally see in these sort of fantasy setting things. Like, they're not afraid to be like, yeah, everybody in this world is all terrible. They're all making horrible decisions. They're all bad people. You're going to be able to root for maybe one of them sometimes.
Yeah.
But the others are going to be baby murderers.
You know what's crazy? I thought that exact thought when I saw him kick the dog. I'm like, well, they're not all
he's a bad guy.
Characters. They're not all going to be good characters.
Usually they do that though too. They set that up as like, oh, somebody commits some sort of animal abuse. That's your telltale sign. This is a villain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you realize that entire crew is just, they're all the worst. They needed 3 more puppies to kick.
It was just so I don't know. I expected that to happen. I just didn't expect to see it depicted that way or hear it, you know, where I didn't need to hear it, the flesh tearing,
right,
all that stuff. But yeah. So what team are we on? Are we on like green or red?
See, I'm team black because
black.
She was named the heir. She's the rightful heir. And just because, you know, Otto Hightower doesn't think that the rest of the 7 kingdoms will accept a queen, that's no reason to, you know, do what they did. But much like everything that's written in this show and why, you know, the writing on this is so strong, you know, I can't remember the other queen's name.
Allison.
Yeah, Allison. The reason she's really behind it is because she misinterpreted what the king said when he was dying about the prince who was promised.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, I like that. Like, she didn't just all of a sudden take a heel turn. She's like, oh my God, you know, the Song of Ice and Fire, the prince that was promised, we have to do this. Yes. This is for the good of the kingdom. And, you know, Rhaena doesn't understand. So at least knowing their motivations and having them make sense always makes it better. But Team Black all the way, you know. As much as Daemon is a terrible human being, the way oh my God, the actor's name, I can't think of his name.
The guy who played Doctor Who.
That's how I remember him. Matt Smith. He is tremendous as him. He does such a great job. Like, he is a horrible, horrible person. But man, you're just like, when he's like, get back on your, you know, dragon, we're going out. The 2 of us can take down Aemon and Vhagar. And we can do it. She's like, I'm not going out again. And he's just like pissed. And he's like, listen to your command. And she's like, when did you become king or whatever? And I was just like, I'll go with him. I want to see these dragons fight.
I don't think that he's a terrible person for that. I think he was more just desperate and pissed off and upset for Rhaenyra, you know?
No. You're right. I wasn't insinuating that was a bad thing he did there. You know, that was just his anger. But his character does a lot of very bad things and is just, and he does some good things. Don't get me wrong. Like when he went and, you know, basically went down and offered himself up to bring the cat. What's his name? The crab. I want to call him the crab catcher.
Crab King.
Crab King. You know, to bring him out. That was very heroic.
Mr. Krabs.
Yeah, Mr. Krabs. He had $1 on the ground, and Mr. Krabs came out. Hey!
That's actually awesome. That's funny. The crab. Mr. Krabs.
Well, we all know Keith's favorite Matt Smith performance was in Morbius. In that one dance scene, that was his favorite scene.
Do not project onto me what your feelings are.
I got both of you the special limited edition tin of Morbius. Okay.
Oh,
God, when are we getting
not the steel box.
I think
You know who my favorite team in the show is, and they're not even really fighting for much of anything.
Who?
The Valerians.
No, I hate them.
I like them. I think they're the only decent people, especially in this episode with the king. After he was like, he was truly thankful. Like, I owe you my life. It's like, good for you, man. You're not being a total despot. Like, I need more people like him because I can't stand everybody else. I hate them all. They're all the worst.
Yeah, I retract. I don't hate them. I don't like them. I just don't like them. They're just Corliss is so.
They're not likable.
No, they're not. Not to me. But Corliss is selfish. I don't like the way he often disappears. I like Rhaenys though. I think she's a badass. I think she's pretty awesome. And their children were, well, they were pretty cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. They're dead now. But their granddaughters are really cool. They look like good supportive characters. Especially I like them
support characters, yeah.
Even though they're cousins, I like them together with, Jaehaerys and what is the brother's name? Lucerys.
Yeah.
Lucerys, the one that just died. I do.
Lucerys and Jaehaerys?
Yeah. Yeah, I like how they looked together. They looked supportive of each other. They didn't look like they hated their match. Like they looked, comfortable.
Yeah.
So I like that. But otherwise, I don't really. Valerians could come and go. I don't care too much.
Yeah, I'm with Doug. I kind of like them. Yes, they do make good steel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
But to me, the most interesting, part of this entire episode, and this was the first episode. It wasn't, earth-shattering, groundbreaking, anything like that. But they did set some things up. We have Otto Hightower being Otto Hightower, trying to manipulate people and put people where he wants them, so things fall into place. And Larys, who is totally being a Littlefinger. And, the way he plays on people and tries to, plays upon Alicent's fear of betrayal and stuff like that in this episode, I was like, okay, this is a good start. We're building up to stuff and we can have some things fall in place. I mean, overall, just, in my opinion, a great start to the second season because things are in motion, little things like the white worm showing up on Dragonstone, so they could kind of get that little sneak attack and try to take out a son for a son, even though they got the wrong one. But obviously tempers are going to be a little out of control at the beginning of episode 2.
I rewatched the episode and I noticed, they're like, well, what if we can't find Aemond? I think and that it was supposed to indicate that Daemon told them, well, son for a son.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they said, well, we're going to get a son for a son. That's what it is, when they were discussing it.
Right, yeah.
But I think
specify which one.
That's what Daemon's okay with. Daemon didn't consider what Rhaenyra wanted. If you're going to go get Aemond, get Aemond, nobody else, So
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling Rhaenyra is gonna be pissed when she sees Daemon and she hears about this. I can only imagine what Alicent is going through. I'm excited to see that,
And think about it, right before kind of this scene, you saw Alicent kind of lighting candles and praying for Lucerys getting killed. She didn't want that to happen. She definitely, she still, cares for Rhaenyra. But this is going to change that probably drastically. This is going to turn into, instead of them just kind of being at war, 2 sons being killed. And, I can see it now. Daemon is going to be probably a little happy that they didn't get Aemon because he's going to want to go after him himself. He wants to take him down.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they're going to go toe-to-toe. I think we're going to get what we want out of that. I think we're going to see that. maybe towards the end. I don't know. It depends on how they do the time skips. I know they kind of fast forwarded through the last season 1, which they did I think they did in an accurate way. But I hope they don't go too fast with this season. The only issue I had with this episode so far is that I didn't get enough. I wanted more. I wanted to watch more of it.
Well, just so you know, next episode is supposed to be 69 minutes. So
I'm okay.
Me too.
Nice.
Yeah. But it's probably that.
Nice.
Go ahead.
Nice.
It tells me that there's probably going to be a time skip after that episode, though. That's what that indicates.
But the thing that, you're right, the first season, how they did that time jump worked because all of that backstory we got before the jump, we would have just been told it, in a scene later on if they didn't have that. So it was much better to live through it and see it all, change characters for that time jump. So it all made sense and we had that knowledge. I thought they really executed that really well in the first season. And, can't go wrong. If they do another time jump, I hope it is as well as they did in the first season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they don't.
What'd you say? Absolutely.
I don't have a drink. Oh. Hold on. I don't have a drink.
Oh.
Hold
nice
on,
if we get you a drink. Well, you don't have to hold up your whole point because of a drink.
She's already up and gone. Yeah. This is kind of on you, Dave. You should have raised her to know to have a drink when she's streaming without your status quo. It should have been like the first thing you taught her.
There you
I got it. I needed it anyway. What was my point? Where was I at? Where did I leave?
You were right there where you are right now.
Just shut up. Where was my point? Where I leave my point at? What did I say last?
I don't remember. We were talking about the time jump, and then
you're hoping they do it right in the second season because they did it right in the first season.
Oh, I was asking if they changed directors or producers or anything like that. Otherwise, I don't see them really changing how that's going to go.
I don't think they changed showrunners or anything.
Well, they usually have different directors on. Yeah, they usually have different directors on each show, each episode. But the show runner is usually the same.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then if they didn't change the show runner, right? Then I don't see it going any differently with the time skips. I feel like it's going to go as smoothly as last time.
From what I understand, George R.R. Martin has a little bit more creative input on this too.
He does. That's why we're never getting the Winds of Winter.
Damn.
I really think what they should it really bothers me with the way Game of Thrones ended because it was I enjoyed it up until the season before the last. I didn't notice a change. I just enjoyed it. But I don't know, watching House of the Dragon and knowing everything they're referring to and what they're talking about, it's so exciting, and I get excited. I'm like, oh yeah, they're referring to this, and then I'm like, oh, but it ended like that. So
nerd.
We'll let Homer say it.
Definitely
Don't.
but it is kind of nice. One of a nice touch from the first season was when the king explained to Rhianna, about the Song of Ice and Fire. This is passed down between king and heir for all time because we have to be on guard. And the fact that, that story is going to be lost because I don't think Team Black wins, unfortunately. And so that knowledge is going to be lost, and that's why we got Game of Thrones. So, little things. They didn't wink at the camera and, hey guys, guess what? We're talking about that thing. Just the way they played it off made sense. This is only knowledge for the king and maybe the small council, but probably not. More just kings, rulers. And so the way they handled that was just efficient and nice, and it hinted at what was coming later, a lot like some of this other stuff does. We know, obviously, the Targaryen family line is not what it is when we get, 100 years from now, or 120?
72 years.
I think it was 200 years.
Okay. You know, we know that
Well,
No, it's
obviously.
172. I'm telling you.
I can tell you, it's not.
They
That's
just
what
get
it
more
said.
and more inbred.
Very first episode, it took all the paragraph away and said 172 years before Daenerys.
No, it didn't. No.
It did.
He's watched
I'm
it more
looking it up.
recently than us.
Hold on.
He's gotta prove me wrong.
No.
no.
It's not even that. It's because I want to know exactly anyway. I want to know. I want to know exactly how long because it's gonna bother me now.
Oh, that's right. I
Well, you know, I
forgot
said-
that you started watching House of the Dragon because you were telling us that there was nobody that you liked, and I was like, yeah, it's not too far off.
Yeah, he's
it's hard to
watching the
find
right
anybody
show.
that's like.
Yeah. See, I watched the
There
first
aren't that many
few
likable
episodes,
people.
and
It's like every now and again, it's like, oh, I like what that person is doing. I kind of like the intrigue of what's happening. But yeah, they're all
Oh.
terrible.
You know what? You know what's crazy? It's 172 years prior to the birth of Daenerys.
That's what I said.
Close.
Yeah. I thought you said 72 years.
Mm-mm. It's at 100.
Yeah.
We have it on tape. We have it on video. It's recorded. It'll be posted tomorrow. I'm telling you.
We're
Yeah,
gonna make
Yeah.
it short.
Pop out the videotape, rewind it.
Yes.
That's right. We
Yeah.
record all of this on VHS.
Only
We're gonna
VHS.
put
That's
that
the
out
only
as
way you
its
can get
own
it.
short.
4:3
It's gonna have
ratio.
its own
What are you
stuff,
saying?
yeah. Zack Snyder stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I was also kind
Okay.
of, you know, did you guys see what Helena was drawing and stuff? It looked like she was hinting at the. Oh my God, what was the king
Does
called?
she see the future or something?
Well, she didn't think about it. She said she's more scared of the rats.
Because she's mentioned the rats.
And then the rat
She-
catchers were the ones that came
Yeah.
and did it. She
Right.
definitely has some seer
Precognition or
ability.
something.
Yes.
She
She's-
has the same abilities as Bran did.
Oh, boring.
Oh, she was like,
Bleh.
When is she getting chucked out a window?
Besides that.
We only hope. No, that's mean. She just lost her baby. Come on.
I mean, that might trigger stuff, though. You know.
That's what I was
Right.
thinking too. She obviously has some powers, and even though she's still, even after she knew what happened, she seemed like, you know, walking in on Allison and Kristen Cole going at it.
It's like
she
she's
was-
not present.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. She's
Speaking of that, go ahead.
no. Let's hear what. Speaking of Allison and Kristen Cole,
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, that's really grimy of Kristen Cole and her. Not so much her though. makes
Especially when she said like a scene ago, she's like, "This can't ever happen again. We can't do
Oh
this
God.
again."
No,
It's
I
like-
feel like she was just full of shit there.
family show.
She probably says that every time.
Right? Yeah.
we
No,
can't do
like,
this again. Okay, next week Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
I
can we do a Tuesday and a Thursday session?
He's just grimy because the only reason that he doesn't like Rhaenyra is because she didn't run away with him.
Yep.
And he took her virginity and everything. And then just to when she was like, "No, I have to be a princess. I have to be here for my people." And then to go and be with Alicent afterwards, who stayed queen, she's not running away from like the kingdom to be with you either. So it's like you with Rhaenyra, that's just fucked up. And then try to convince Aemond that his sister is a spider, and then you can only
He can change her.
and then to only consider like what they've probably been telling them about Rhaenyra since they were growing up. Like I feel like what Christian Cole said about Rhaenyra gave an insight of what they've already been telling the two boys about Rhaenyra. So they already grew up with like, I don't like her at all. You know, like they were never gonna come to a discussion about this at all. It was never gonna be easy because the high towers had their hands on it.
It all is because Allison wore that green dress in the first season.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah, you're
hate
right.
Alec.
The kids have never gotten along. I mean,
Mhm.
Amon's eye was taken out in that fight they had as kids. They've done a good job of not making this just, well, I want to be in power. Well, I want to be in power. There's underlying hatred and
Yep.
Yeah.
jealousy
Definitely.
between this whole family. So they're doing a great job, and I cannot wait to see them actually just a real Dance with Dragons. I hope it comes this
Yeah.
season a little bit, but have we heard? I was looking for it. Do we know how many seasons this is supposed to run? I was looking for it today, and I couldn't find
No
it.
idea.
don't
No
know.
idea. Let me see. I'll
Well,
look it up.
did Game of Thrones have a set number of seasons that they were going to do?
It originally started out, it was going to be 8 seasons. I think it was 8 seasons when they started. They said it was going to be around 8. The what?
Then the showrunners, they were going to make a Star Wars. It was going to be the best Star Wars.
I was going to say they did what they planned. They just messed it up at the end.
Well,
The
and I
thing
think,
is, HBO told them they could have more episodes.
and I think they came in with 8, not knowing how George R.R. Martin was going to finish it, because I don't think he really, like when they first started making it, he wasn't keying him in on how he was going to finish the books. But then when the show
No.
became a big hit, and he's like, okay, this is going to last for the entire story, I better fill him in. And I think once they figured out how it ended, they should have said, which HBO, like Doug said, was like, you can have as much time as you want. And they were like, nah, we're good. We got that Star Wars. Because they could have done 2 more seasons and really done a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I saw an interview with George R.R. Martin, and he said they had enough material for 12 seasons, and he didn't know why they were ending the show.
Well, okay, yes and no. His books are full of a lot of world building and a lot of detail, but some of the chapters read like history books, and it's very hard to translate that into a show that would be exciting to watch. If it's just like some narrator saying, and then as they sat at the long obsidian table and they enjoyed a feast, and let me name all of the different foods that were in this feast. That's an actual chapter.
Well, and I
Wow.
mean, and the books had dozens of more characters that were never
Oh, yeah,
introduced in the
yeah.
show, because it would have
It
gotten
had ghosts, and there was a lot more supernatural elements too.
yeah, like the Stark's mommy came back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
She
she was the lady in red, something like that. Yeah, it was messed up. I posted a link in the chat to
Mm-hmm.
fact check me. You can fact check me, but from what I just read, it's going to be about 4 seasons.
Okay, that makes
And they
sense.
also
Okay.
they said that this season was going to be less episodes than the other seasons. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know
only
why.
8. It's only 8 episodes. I did see that today.
Yeah.
Season 1 was
But-
10. This one's only
Is
8.
that a 10?
Maybe it's gonna be maybe a little longer, like episodes towards the end. Maybe they'll make it up that way. But
Possibly.
They'll do it like
mean,
a Stranger
I'm a
Things
little-
last season, where each episode is like an hour and 47 minutes.
don't
You know,
even
this
get me
next episode
started,
is going to be 69 minutes.
Oh, I know. Giddy up.
you know?
In
But
case you didn't hear.
and I have a comment about what you said earlier. We're doing spoilers, right?
Yes,
Yes.
we are.
But do you want it spoiled for yourself, or do you want me to keep my mouth shut?
Is this about
Maybe.
knowledge past this episode?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's about
you
don't spoil that.
so much the outcome.
How do you
No.
know that?
Because the books.
Because
I did not read these books.
I plan on reading
I
it
didn't-
when this is done. I don't want to ruin my enjoyment of the show. I thought about this after season 1. I was going to buy the book, and I'm like, maybe I won't, because I want to see the show play out. But I might read the
Yeah.
book still,
Okay.
because I
Okay. I was about to blurt it out, and I was like, "Wait a minute! I need to be considerate first." 'Cause-
yes, this
I
is
was
spoilers
excited
for
about
this
it.
episode only.
yeah. That's fine, and it makes
All of a
sense.
sudden,
It makes
all of a sudden,
sense.
somebody's going to make like a YouTube video. Not your status quo under fire as they spoiled Game of Thrones spin-off series House of the Dragon. Look
Well,
at these.
Anyone who's read the books are like, "Yeah, I knew that." So, I didn't read the books, mind you. I just kind of spoiled it for myself because certain things were not sitting right with me. I don't like how, I don't like Allison. I don't like the Greens,
No, I don't like any of them either.
We just discussed why, I think Keith summed it up pretty much for me. They're not supposed to be there. They were never supposed to be there.
Well, and the way that her father pushed her to be with the king after
as a
wife
kid,
died.
that was so messed up.
You watch it, you're like, what dad would do that? I understand his lust for power, but that was like a step. I was like, damn, that's wrong. And of course, it worked. He knows how to manipulate.
It
people.
happened in our own reality, in the past, and women were just political tools.
Yep,
that's true. Sometimes they still are. Depends on what country you're in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the way she weaseled it, and then I can understand. I'm a little sympathetic towards Allison, but I also think she's grimy in her own ways. But I think in the first season, she was a little more uncomfortable. She's like, I have to be this way, but I don't want to be this way. And now I feel like she's more. Sure. She's clearly grown into her 30s. I think the last one was from her teens to her 20s. Now she's in her 30s, and now she's just more like, I don't care. I am who I am. I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm just don't care about it. She doesn't have as much. Honor about.
I think that's a good way to say it, because remember, she was very snarky to Rhaenyra about her kids. Go to her husband and be like, maybe the next one will look like you.
That's true.
And now she's with Kristen and all this other stuff. She has changed a lot how she was, and a lot of that was because of her dad. Because you even remember in the first season, I forget what happened, but he was like, I was worried you wouldn't do the right thing when the time came, but now I'm not worried at all.
Yeah.
Because he was worried she was going to, step back and let Rhaenyra take the crown and not let her kids take it. And then she was pretty much said, we need to do this. He's like, good for you. You're going to do what's right. She's like, oh, well, my dad says it's right, so it must be right. And she has just, started out a lot more honorable than she is now. She has definitely become what she never wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, I never really, there was no catalyst. There was no real issue between her and Rhaenyra that really fell out, except for Rhaenyra just didn't like that she was marrying Viserys.
Yeah.
So I didn't really understand the hatred between each other. But if you look at it from her point of view and as I guess a woman, it would be more like she's been controlled by men her whole life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Rhaenyra didn't let that happen, and she was a little more outspoken about it, So then it makes sense now why they just absolutely hated each other. And then, considering Alicent was more honorable back then, it makes sense where she's really gouging at Rhaenyra for having bastard children. And I don't think that's fair at all, because you have to consider Rhaenyra's situation. She's married to a gay man. It was never going to happen. But
she married for her father and for the Seven Kingdoms, and they knew going in exactly. It's like, hey, we'll do our duty, but what we do on our own, we're both cool with. They had that the relationship. It was nothing. She wasn't doing him a disservice. They were both fully invested in knowing what was going to go on. And
I just think
sounds like you like her, Sierra. Sounds like you like her for the same reasons that you like Cersei.
Who?
Rhaenyra?
Rhaenyra? I like Rhaenyra because Rhaenyra's supposed to be there. She was just a kid growing up, and her best friend got married to her dad, and nobody wants that. And of course she's upset about that. And I think that I can understand Rhaenyra's position more than Alicent. Alicent is again, she's controlled by men throughout the entire series so far. And she does things she doesn't want to do for her dad. She's doing things she doesn't want to do with Viserys. And it's like, she's had to live this life. So it makes sense that she's just bitter. She's just angry. And then her son loses an eye. So that just causes an excuse for why she doesn't like Rhaenyra. So now it's just like embedded in her. She's in her 30s. She's dishonorable now, where I think it's kind of crazy and almost like hypocritical. Well, I guess it's not, because she did things in the future, but it is hypocritical for her to judge Rhaenyra so harshly in the beginning, you know. And that's why I can't stand by Alicent. I can't. And her son's like her
little monsters.
Yeah, Aemond.
This is a beans.
Huh?
At least I guess eye
So
patch
that's a
is.
beans.
Oh.
I can't hate on eye patch as much because he gives zero shit. Does not care at all. Just does his own thing, saunters in. Hey, you gonna be king? Nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just gonna ride around a dragon with my one eye and I'm gonna be cool.
I mean, he's pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. But he sucks because of what he did.
He does. He's a terrible person, but like
Yeah.
I mean, again, a lot of them are.
I think his brother is worse.
The brother who's the king. Oh my God, can he please control his child?
No.
Lord.
He's the prince, of course not.
Oh my God, like I almost felt like that wasn't in the script. They just let this kid run loose, and finally the one actor looking. Thank you. That's not helping.
Yeah, he's like, stop it.
Right.
It would be cool if that was ad-libbed. That would be kind of interesting.
So it came up just like it felt like true frustration. I'm like, oh, dude, I feel you. I don't like you, but I understand how upset you are. You're a Hightower, and I don't like you, but.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, they're Targaryens, though. You know?
Yeah.
But they're a little weird because of their queer customs, is all I will say.
Yeah, I guess that's the way to put it.
Yeah.
That's the way Alicent put it, so the same way. But sorry, I have a lot to say about Game of Thrones. I've been waiting for this. I've been so excited about it since I heard about it. I'm a geek for it because Game of Thrones let me down. So I wanted to feel it again. I wanted to feel that Game of Thrones again. So when I started watching it, I was like, oh, this is, yeah.
I'm ready to be hurt again.
I don't think they're going to hurt me this time, though. They're not. That's another reason I got attached to it.
Setting yourself up to be hurt again. They won't do it again, will they?
They told me they've changed.
I don't think they're gonna do it again because isn't it different? They're clearly different from the people who ran Game of Thrones, and also they saw
more
what
involved
they did.
this time.
They saw what they did wrong. There's no way that they're gonna let that bomb happen again. There's no way they got too much backlash for it.
No,
they forced these new creators to sit down and watch the last two seasons of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, they're like,
look at it.
We're not doing this.
Rub their faces in it like a dog.
Like this isn't how we do things.
and it helps that the book is done. You know, this isn't like, you know, A Song of Ice and Fire where the last book still isn't out yet. You know, they have the full time. They can
no
ingest
way
the
that
entire
he can
story.
multitask.
No, he can't.
No.
Yeah, well, you know,
No.
God.
You know, coming into the show, I was hesitant to watch it because of how I felt about the last, you know, season of Game of Thrones. I ended up giving it a chance. I'm glad I did. But, you know, they're making Dunk and Egg, which I don't know if you guys have ever read the short stories of Dunk and Egg. It's set before this, and I think it's set before this. I'm almost positive. And or it might be a little after this. I don't know. But it was little short stories that George R.R. Martin wrote, and it was about a knight traveling with this other guy. They were called Dunk and Egg. And I think they're going to call it a hedge knight or something for the show, but George R. is like writing that now for the show, and he's going to be heavily involved in that.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, we're never getting Winds of Winter, but as long as they keep making good shows in this universe for HBO, I'll be happy.
You know, even the actors want them to redo the end of Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And I think they should. I think they absolutely should. And
that's
just
why there's not
re-release
a Jon Snow show.
I don't think there would be a Jon Snow show, considering all he's going to be doing is protecting the wall, which doesn't need to be protected anymore.
that doesn't make sense. He should have been king after Daenerys died. Whether he did it or not, he should have been king.
I made this suggestion after the fiasco that was the Rise of Skywalker.
Doug, we're talking about Game of Thrones now.
I've got a point.
I know, I'm kidding.
I said if they really did want to, redo that and actually give it a chance to be something decent, to actually be a decent film and a good ending to the Skywalker Saga, here's how they could pull it off. They just, they go back to Broom Kid, and they're all sitting around, doing what kids do, and they're talking about, BS stories that they've heard on the playground, and what? No, that didn't happen. Luke didn't lift Ghost Luke didn't lift a ship out of the water. It wouldn't. And then it's revealed to us that the entirety of the Rise of Skywalker was just some BS that some kid made up, playground story. So that's what they do with the end of Game of Thrones. We find out, we zoom out, and
it's all broad street.
It's it's just some kid working in a stable somewhere. And then I heard they said that Bran, he had the best story. You're full of shit. That's not how it happened.
Yeah. Right.
Let's see how it really happened.
Right. Everyone knows that Jon is a king. Why would they send it back? Well, because in my version it sounded better. Bran has the best story. Bran died 5 years ago, bro. Stop.
Bran is the three-eyed raven.
That doesn't make a difference.
No, it did.
Yeah, and he was shot down by an arrow like every other bird. Come on.
No, and that's why he shouldn't be king. He's like the Merlin to Jon's king. That's how they should have ended it.
He's not fit for it. He is not fit for it. That was the whole point. They discussed why someone of that could not be king. They discussed that in the series. Because he has too many eyes and he has to focus on what's best for the realm, not for King's Landing, not for, I mean, I guess I get that when you're king of the realm, right? But at the same time, it's it's gonna stop him from being able to make certain decisions when it comes to certain things. I don't know.
He's gonna be too cold and calculated. He's gonna be more like a machine than a person.
I mean, I think so. Yeah. And it's just not. It doesn't work. But they made it work. Apparently that's what it is. So. Yeah.
Do you think that's really? Do you think that's really the ending that George had in mind?
No.
I think it is.
No.
And he just said, "Oh, they're going to do this," and it was like if he would have wrote it differently, then it maybe made a little more sense. But I'm guessing now that when Winds of Winter does come out, it's going to be different. I got a feeling it's going
probably
to
now that he sees the fan backlash and how it turned out. Now he's like, "Oh wow, that's actually really bad. Let me change my story around."
How dare they hate that? I'm going to kill another fan favorite in this book. Show them.
I know this is most people don't like this idea, but I think they should stick. And when he writes the book, I think he should stick with Daenerys going crazy.
That's fine. Just set it up.
I think it should be like poetry. I think it should rhyme. And that I think because she's a Targaryen, I think she should end the story by becoming what she feared she would, basically like her brother, like her ancestors.
And I'm fine with that. Set it up better. You don't go from freeing the slaves and doing all the stuff to
set it up
murdering civilians at King's Landing without much of a...
I tend to disagree. I don't think she should have went crazy. I don't think that works because she did... What would be the catalyst to make her go crazy? Because
that's what the show is.
Yeah, I mean, because they said it was Masandri. I think that's how you say her name. Masandri, and that doesn't make any sense because she didn't go crazy when her husband died. She did a little bit, but she didn't go absolutely. I'm going to kill everybody crazy when her husband died. She didn't go absolutely batshit crazy when her son died, when her dragons died, but when her handmaiden dies. When her handmaiden dies, that's when she goes crazy. That doesn't make sense. And it really ruined Daenerys for me. And I thought she was this badass, and I loved her, and she's awesome. She's just the best person ever type shit. And now it's more like, damn, You're
Yeah.
just an unhinged lady. Like you're just unhinged
like-
with dragons.
George must have just given them the cliff notes, like this is how it's all going to wrap up, and he didn't give them the whys or the hows. And that's probably the reason why these last 2 seasons were rushed the way they were. I don't think those showrunners had the ability to actually come up with their own stuff. I
Yeah.
think it was
good
fine
because
when they
of
had the
George's
books to
writing.
rely on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
They
I
could-
don't know. It's his writing, you know what I'm saying? So
Right, but then once they got to, the last 2 seasons, they didn't have the full books anymore. They just had, what he had told them. Like,
yeah.
okay, well, this is how I plan on ending it, and that was like it. That was all they had to go off of. No motivations, no
I feel like
catalyst.
they didn't go off of that. I feel like we're just like, we just gotta finish this. Let's go.
That too.
They
Again,
didn't
like
look
we
at the
said,
notes.
HBO told them they could have more episodes. No, you don't understand. We got a Star Wars to make
Yeah.
that they
And
got
then
fired from.
It's like that's some flex to really lose the deal because of something you rushed through that you didn't need to rush through. Like I don't know.
Wouldn't
How
they-
could
Star
you let
Wars
down
would
your
have been
fans?
waiting.
Didn't they even lose a deal with Netflix too?
No, they got a deal with Netflix.
Oh, they did get okay.
What deal is
Say,
that?
how sad would that be if Netflix, who will literally make anything,
I like some of the Netflix shows right now. Like I just finished Sweet Tooth. That was pretty good. It was pretty weird. It was pretty good.
okay, yeah, some of the Netflix stuff is good, but then they
I like
also
Bridgerton.
hired Zack Snyder, so
They did. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Depends on
yeah.
what he's doing.
Yeah, don't
you
watch
gonna
Rebel
you gonna watch
Moon.
Rebel Moon?
You said what?
You gonna watch Rebel Moon?
No. No.
What about Rebel Moon part wait, was it Rebel Moon 1A, 1B? I don't know. What is it called?
Wait, I forget what part 2 was. The Scar Giver.
Oh, right, yeah, Jesus Christ.
What was the first one again? Rebel Moon. There's blood will be spilled or something.
Sure.
Old
my-
men.
oh,
No
God.
country for old men. What the hell was it called?
The story of
Rebel
blood.
Moon, there's a robot.
Hmm. Yeah, I just can't. I don't understand. Why would you want to compete with Star? I mean, I guess I understand wanting to make a new Star Wars because Star Wars sucks now. But
No, it doesn't. It's
Like that.
this show.
Okay, we talked about this when we oh God, I'm dredging up terrible memories. If you want to tangent time us real quick, I don't
From
know
a
if you
few
have
hours ago. We don't have a tangent time scene with 4, so
Okay, all right, that's fine.
we're tangenting.
tangent.
Oh, we talked about this when we were forced to do our review of the first Rebel Moon movie. We didn't do the second one because, like, who cares?
I didn't know the second one came out.
Yeah, because it was actually one movie split into 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, stupid. So
Yeah.
when we were reviewing this, one of the things that we dug up, and I didn't realize this until I did the research, was that Zack Snyder actually wrote this a long time ago, a very long time ago. He presented this, he pitched it to George Lucas, and even George Lucas is like, "Look, man, I made Jar Jar Binks, and this thing is shit."
I wrote the love scenes in Attack
cannot.
of the Clones, and I don't like this.
I hate sand. It gets
I want
everywhere.
to kill it. The women and the children. No.
He's like, "Oh, it's okay. Come here, baby."
That's pretty bad. When this was before George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney, so he pitched it to George Lucas to Lucasfilm. Said, "Hey, I really want this to be, if you're thinking about the sequel movies for Star Wars, here's this great idea, and I really think that we could expand." George is reading through it. He's like, "This is terrible. None of this makes any sense. No, this will never see the light of day."
Where does this story start?
Okay, in space. Okay, I want you to envision this giant space vagina. I'm sorry, what?
There's going to be more
Shit
sex and
comes
violence
out
in
of
this
it.
than you had in any Star Wars movie. Great, get him out of here.
And the bad
Security.
guy's gonna come and steal their crops, and they got 7 days, It's a bug's life,
The
but
Bug's Life,
there's
that's
no
right.
grasshoppers. Wow, this really
Instead,
sounds
there's
bad.
not
No. And then we have lightsabers that look like they're fire. They're not laser
Oh.
swords? No.
No, they're worse.
They're
They're
fire
They're
swords.
they're literally swords that have like a welding implement added on.
That's the best kind of sword right there. You know what I'm saying? That's the best. Dad, did you show them the dude Dave man?
Oh, of course he did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right
That
back.
is awesome.
I don't
Yes.
see it. Let me see it. Oh, there he is. Yeah,
That-
I love it.
I think it's awesome. I just got excited about it.
Well, hey, should we rate episode 1 of season 2 of the House of Dragon a son for a son,
Sure, I'll go first.
not a boy for a boy?
Dad, I think you should finish. I think you should get through it, though. I really think you should get through House of the Dragon. I think you'll like it. The first couple episodes, of course, you're gonna be like, you're not familiar with these characters. You don't know them
I
from
didn't like
campaign.
any of them.
It makes
Nobody
sense. They're not
does.
good people. They're not good people.
No,
Well, look at
they're
this.
all the worst.
When they started Game of Thrones, and who was the first family they showed you? The Starks. Ned Stark. Awesome dude. His whole family. Awesome people. Jon Snow. Someone to root for. All these people. That's what hooked me on that show. And then you get into the House of Dragon. Everyone's a complete selfish prick. I couldn't stand it.
That's
I mean,
why the
they're
House of
royals.
Targaryen fell.
They are the system. They're the system that we hate. They're the
Yeah.
rich. They're the 1%. Of course, you're not going to like them and not be able to relate to them. That's the point. They're trying to make it a little more realistic. If you can get past it, because trust
You saying
me,
I'm not rich?
yes, I am.
You're rich in heart.
If you're rich, then why am I not rich right now? That's what I'm wondering.
You have a rich personality.
Yeah.
Wait about 4
Yeah.
months. You'll be fine.
So I think you should get past it, because it took me a minute, because I was like, I don't care about any of these people, but I don't know, something made me look at it again. I was like, let me try episode 2. And it was coming out weekly at this point. So, it was just a little more anticipated for me, I guess. But once you get past the first 2 episodes, I think you'll get into it. I think you should. You were just telling me that you wanted something more like Game of Thrones, and there you go. It's Game of Thrones.
Keith, when did you and Carrie finally get me to start watching it? Because I was very cynical about the whole thing when it first came out. I was like, I'm not watching it. And I didn't watch the premiere. I want to say it was like maybe 3 episodes in. I don't know.
It was like 3 or 4 episodes in.
I definitely did not jump into it right away. I was so disappointed by the way Game of Thrones ended. I was not ready to jump back into that world again. I did not care. I'm just like, I don't want to be hurt again.
Yeah, I think they knew that too. They had to
I
go.
want to know what love is.
Well, I'm
Won't
sorry.
you
I didn't mean to
show
interrupt.
me?
I know you can
The
start
lights
reading it.
will lift us up where we belong.
Hold on, Dad. I didn't hear you very clearly. What'd you say?
I said I didn't mean to interrupt. You guys wanted to rate the show, so go ahead, proceed. I didn't interrupt.
I wanted to sell the show to you, so
Yeah,
There you
don't tell
go.
us what to do. You didn't sidetrack
Right.
us, Dave. Quit trying to take credit, man. How
All
dare
right,
you?
guys.
All right. Back to Doug's basement with you, and let's rate the episode.
I'll go first. I
All right.
really, I looked at this as the first episode of a new season. It's not going to be like the second to last episode where a bunch of stuff happens, but they are putting things into place. They're setting things up. And I think the way they handled the revenge from Damon, I think you said it very nicely, Sierra, where they wanted Aemon, but if you can't get him, if you can't find him, a son for a son. And how they pulled it off was, devastatingly cruel. And it's only going to, bring these families more at each other's throats, because both Rhaenyra, yes, I'm having a very, and Alicent have always been like, we did get along at one point, and they both seemed to not want to go to full war right away. And these little things that have been pushing them to, this is going to be one of the last straws, I think, and it's going to, blow up. And, I thought the acting was great. I thought the writing was great. I didn't really notice the score outside of, I really wish they didn't have the same music for the opening as they did for Game of Thrones, but at least they changed the scene going on behind it. But I mean, overall, it was a great start, and I think I'm going to give it a 7.25 repeating. So 5. And I'm looking forward to this Sunday to watch it. The second episode. I think they're going to, dig in a lot deeper, and we got a longer episode, so a lot more can happen. And keeping the trust with this showrunner that they're going to, continue to make quality episodes.
Yeah, I hope so.
It was okay. Again, I guess I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like, what's up? Anyway, so like I recognize that it's the first episode of the new season. I get that much. It's fine, and I guess I just expected it to be like other Game of Thrones seasons, where it had a stronger start. And to me, it
what did you want?
It's
3 babies getting killed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, I don't know. I guess I expected more than just. I felt like it just picked up where we left off in the last season. Like, it just seemed like this was the next episode that should have aired at the end of the last season. I don't know. Just on one hand, I appreciate the continuity. That's cool. But on the other hand, it's like, can I see something else other than the constant back and forth bickering? And I don't know. It seemed like up until they got into the break into the castle and do the baby murders, like it seemed kind of dull and status quo. It was fine. It was okay. I think the best part of the whole episode was the king's son running around and being a little kid. That was hilarious. That was my favorite part.
He has school. Don't take him to your small council. Let's go, kid. Come on.
I truly do hope that was ad-libbed. So yeah, I'll give it a 5. It was fine.
5.
Doug's
is taking my spot on this panel.
It was fine.
5 is pretty bad, though. That's like below.
No, 5's average.
5 is average.
5's average.
Yeah.
It is average, but that's still bad. That's I don't know.
Let's hear your ratings, Sierra.
Well, there's multiple factors going into it. So if we're going to consider the amount of bullshit that's been coming out in this past year between shows, any fandom, and movies in general, Hollywood agendas, right? It's going to be pretty high up there. It's not letting me down right now as a fan. It's not letting me down. I think it's doing pretty well with the, the
I see where you're coming from. 10 out of 10 needs more baby murder.
No, Jesus.
Doug,
in fact, I need
that's
less.
Insulting. It's a 9.89. It'll get that 10 with more babies are murdered.
Yeah, stop projecting.
I think but no, I think the story is going exactly the way it should. I can see where Doug's like, it looks like it's just following it's the next episode after last season's like right back to it. But I kind of appreciate that they don't fuck around. They're just like, here it goes. Like, here you are. This is what it is. Highly anticipated for so long, and then they gave us something. They gave us a shock. I think the only thing that I had wrong with is I wanted more time with Rhaenyra than Alicent, because I feel like they show Alicent's side of things a lot more than Rhaenyra, and I enjoy Rhaenyra's more. Even though it's kind of gross, she's married to her uncle. But well, you know, whatever. Bygones be bygones.
That's just Targaryens being Targaryens.
It's just her being, you know, it's just what it is. But so I think considering all those factors and the only thing that I wanted was more of Rhaenyra and more of the episode, I'd give it about an 8. 8.5. 8.
Would have been a 9 with Sabine in it.
No. Immediate 0. Immediate down to 0. I would not watch it
When Ahsoka season 2 comes out, we gotta have you on.
We do.
Yeah, I'll be watching it, but I'm not happy with Ahsoka either, because Ahsoka just was like, yeah, you just keep fucking up shit, but you know, do you, girl?
You do you, girl.
I don't like that. I don't like it at all.
You got to learn from your mistakes.
No, she didn't learn. She
You
didn't
gotta
learn
make mistakes
anything.
to learn from them.
She didn't learn anything. She put the whole universe at risk, and Ahsoka's just like, yeah, sure, yeah.
It wasn't the whole universe. It was just the galaxy. Settle down.
An entire galaxy.
Just the galaxy. That's
Breathe
the
in your sister.
God.
like, no, God, no.
Whoa, pump the brakes.
It's fucking. I'm mad at Ahsoka. I'm mad at her, Sabine. I'm mad at the showrunners. Why did you do this? That is. I know she's trying to be like, oh, I'm a white Jedi. I'm better now. Like, this is awesome. But you know, you could still be better and hold people accountable for their fuck ups. You know.
It's a family show.
I'm sorry.
At this point, Game of Thrones, I don't think so.
You could teach people. You could teach people how to right their wrongs. You know what I'm saying, or at least be aware of them. You know, but you know, so apparently being white, you know, being the white Jedi, that means I don't need to tell you about anything. You keep doing you, and I'm doing.
Well, she wasn't the white Jedi until the end of the season. So
Ahsoka is just she's very hands off with training her Padawan. She's like the king in House of the Dragon, letting their son run around and grab the magic balls off the table.
Magic ball, yeah.
This is Ahsoka with her Padawan. All the other, you know, Force users are looking around like, are you gonna stop her? Like, she's running around grabbing everybody's balls, the balls on the table. Not, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
you're just, and in this case, in Ahsoka, she grabbed the metal ball, right? You know.
The metal balls, yeah.
Yeah. So you're just gonna let her do this? And Ahsoka's just like, well, you know, I believe in more of a hands-off approach. I'm not her parent. We can be friends. And
nice way to bring that back.
And she got stabbed again. Okay, right. Well.
Nice way to bring that back in, Doug.
You really brought it full circle.
Yeah, I think so.
Probably time, though, to find somebody to raid.
Let me find someone.
Fortunately, TJ is off.
I got one.
Oh.
It's graduating. Yep.
Are they playing Elden Ring?
No.
Spell it for me.
Everyone else is.
Spell me their username, please.
Yeah, graduating.
Or type it in the chat so you can just copy paste.
Yeah, is it a? Yeah, you gotta get the capitals all right. Come on, send it over.
It's okay. Hold on a second.
Oh my gosh, what are you doing, Sarah? Oh,
come on. We don't got all
Is there
night.
a chat I can send this to?
Yeah, there's
yes.
chat.
Put it in the chat.
You chat with us all the time in it. You don't know where it is anymore.
There you go.
Thank you.
Sorry, you put something there already.
thanks.
Did you get it?
Graduating reefer?
Yeah. Refer.
There we go. Now we're all set up to raid. Thank you, everybody,
Nice.
for coming out and talking, chatting with us tonight. Sierra, always a pleasure having you on. We hope you'll join us. It won't be... we won't be here next Sunday because it is my 17th anniversary on the 23rd.
Oh, yeah.
So, but we'll be back next Thursday and maybe Monday
More
to talk. But yeah, more House of the Dragon. So we hope you'll join us again. It's always nice getting another perspective.
Yeah.
But we're about to raid. See y'all. Gonna do the
Bye.
outro here.
Hey fellow nerds, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of this stuff, make sure that you check out our Twitch stream. We try to do these live Sunday or Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Keep an eye on our social media to find out when you can join in live and chat with us during these live streams. Also, as usual, don't forget to check out our other social media. Add us at Twitter, comment down below, and we'll see you next time right here on Not Your Status Quo.